Hi everyone! Here she is, she's back. Dani Henderson, how are you?
Oh, I'm so good, darling. Angel cake, angel face. It's so lovely to see you. And I'm so happy that you took some time off this month. I'm so proud of you. I know you were
No.
texting me in the car on your travels, but it was lovely that you kind of took that time. And isn't it so important for all of us, just no matter what we're doing, just to take that time?
Perfect, absolutely. And today we are going to travel and journey into a very fascinating subject, everyone. Angels, demons, and aliens.
Mm.
Dani, what do you want to share with us on this topic?
Okay, so in terms of like the paranormal, which lives and exists, in tandem with the other peoples and other civilizations, which people tend not to call so much paranormal. So, but for us humans, we're always interacting, acting, responding, sensing, and so this is really about validating you. And one of the things that, for my whole life, I've been clairvoyant, I've been feeling, seeing, sensing, having actual physical interactions with different kinds of beings. And I remember years ago, like everybody else, when you hear about the angel of death, for example, the angel of death, ooh, it's this Hollywood, black cloaked, holding a scepter, going to take you to hell. And if you see one, you're dead, and all that rest of it. And many, many years ago, when I was married, I my husband at the time had cancer, and he had to make a decision on a surgeon for his, he had to have a part of his prostate cancer, and he wasn't making the decision, and I was sensing that it was getting worse and worse. And this one particular night, we're in bed, and we had this giant four-poster bed with big barley twists, and it was like a real jump down to get off it. And I remember waking up and seeing against the wall this being, and it looked, my first thought was, oh, it's the angel of death. And it was wearing all these different layers of silk. It had its head down. It was like black, gray, kind of a dirty cream color. And the rage I felt, because I've seen so many paranormal, horrible things and beautiful things. And so what happens is, from a tiny child to an adult, you build a muscle, and it's a fuck you muscle that you learn to not be in fear. Because the minute you're in fear of anything, then you're giving your electromagnetic energy away, and they're feeding off it. And I thought it was the angel of death come to take my husband. And I leapt off that bed and I punched into this being. And the second I made contact with its energy, it was the most beloved, sweet, benevolent, feminine. And I suddenly realized, oh my God. And I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she said, he is at choice. He is at choice. And then she disappeared. She just kind of like through the wall, like, and I woke my husband up and I said, oh my God, the angel of death was here. He's like, oh my God. I went, no, darling, no, 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 no. She was beautiful. She's coming to remind you, you've got to make a decision. You must have surgery because you're very sick right now. And it's the only thing right now because it was advanced in an area. And the next day, he made his decision and had the most amazing surgeon. And to this day, like 20 or less than 20, like 16, maybe 16 years later, he's as fit as a fiddle, as fit as a butcher's dog, as we say. So that was my first interaction with the angel of death. And I think it's important that as humans are awakening on different levels, I prefer to call it self-realizing. We need to be going back into our childhood, back into ourselves, back into remembering things that we experienced that we've shut away. We get to have a second look. We get to talk about it, question it without thinking, oh, we're adults now, none of that stuff matters. No. Then if you have a religious programming, which I did very young, we're told, oh my gosh, if you see anything like that, that means you've got the devil in you. That is such a lie, and calling it out is a big, fat, stinky, horrible lie. It's a lie, okay? So the second time I saw an angel of death, yes, there are several, and they are different genders and no genders. So I met these guys. I moved from America back to England. I'm on the train to London and I'm going to meet these guys. And they want to make a TV show with me. And they want to, because I can see blindfold. And there's a couple of videos on my website where I was blindfolded, completely taken to places in London. And I had to say live on camera where I was, proving that it is possible to use to see without using the senses of sight, but using all your other senses. So I'm on the train and I'm reading this book by this amazing medium called Doris Stokes. I adore this woman. She's one of Great Britain's foremost mediums. And I'm reading her book, and it was called Voices Within My Ear. And as I'm reading it, I feel this presence. And it's really bearing down on me, not in a bad way, just like, and I tune in, and it is this huge being, and his head was like a pumpkin. It was a very peculiar looking being. He was wearing like a long black heavy coat, reading my book, like bloody reading my book, like, ooh, you know. And I realized it was an angel of death, and I said, oh my God, like telepathically, because you know everything is telepathic. And I said, oh my God, is the train going to crash? And he said, no. I said, are you with someone on the train? And he said, yes. And then I said, how long will you be with that person? And he said, a week. Unbelievable. So this angel of death was guiding someone on the train who was going to be out of the body in the next week, you know, by death, by dying. And this being, and we often hear that people talk about, I feel like there's something with me, or I feel like I had to get everything in order, or I suddenly had this mad urge to make up with family members. And so I've come to understand and believe, and of course this is only my opinion, and we're each welcome to our own, but I want to share my experiences because I believe they will help other people to kind of recognize and realize themselves in their power and what these entities sometimes are. And I remember going to London, and that's still on the train, and being so amazed that, wow, that's the second angel of death I've met. And then realizing there are many of them in different guises for different reasons that come to people in different stages and different places. And when we went to London, I'm sitting in the room with these two guys, and they want to make a TV show because I can see blindfold and I'm a scuba diver. And they were going to take me to places around the world, blindfold me, drop me in the ocean and say, right, Dani, where are you? You know, read the shipwreck or read this kind of whatever it was, wreck underground or, you know, ancient ruins and all the rest of it. Anyway, so I told them, and excuse me, it reminded me of another situation I had where there was, when I took my PADI, you know, your scuba diving exam. And I'm in the ocean with my trainer, Bill, from Coronado in San Diego. And there's this huge nurse called Jessie and another really big guy who's a Marine, because there's a lot of Marine and Navy SEAL training off Coronado in San Diego, California. So we're all going down, and when you go down in your training, the diver instructor will put a float on the surface of the ocean, clearly stating students. So it's etiquette to stay away because there's people training there. And we went out to this part of San Diego. It's called La Jolla. It's spelled Jolla, La Jolla. That sounds like La Jolla, La Jolla, where there is, you go out a certain way, you can drop down 60 feet to the ocean floor, and then there is a shelf, this oceanic shelf. No one has actually been able to fully measure how deep that area is. So anyway, that's where we're going to do our flipping training, right? So you go down under the ocean and you do things under the ocean, like you take your mask off 60 feet down, and your mind is saying to you, you're going to die, you're going to drown. How could you possibly take your mask off with all that tonnage of water on you? But you don't drown. You take the mask off, you put the mask back on, you press an area of it and the water comes out. Of course, people have figured this out over many years of scuba diving. So anyway, so I'm there to pass my test. I'm with two others and the instructor. We finally take our test, we do the test, and we're all relaxing underwater. And then we start swimming out a little bit, and there's the deep. It's a bit scary, it's a bit like falling off a multi-story building. yeah, it's really, oh my God, it's so fascinating. And you've got the sound of all these bubbles popping in your ears the whole time, like when you're down that deep. So we're kind of looking over the edge, and Bill, my instructor, is bloody throwing lobsters at us. And it's so funny, underwater, everything is like slow motion. So like these lobsters are like in slow motion, like coming towards us. So we're all distracted, and all of a sudden I see these two men. And these two men, these two divers, are wearing jet black suits, and they're swimming this way as we're going this way. And they're right over the deep. They're right over where the shaft drops down. And so I'm so surprised to see people down there. So I'm like, I wave, and they just look at me, nonchalant, no expression. And I thought, oh, I know. Because underwater there's all these hand signals that you do. Nothing. And I was thinking, okay, oh, it's this one. Nothing, zero, nada. And one of them leaned over to his buddy and grabbed his buddy's diving watch and was tapping it. And they're both looking at it, and they're just not. It was very strange. So it kind of pissed me off a bit, because I thought, well, you know what? I'm a student. I'm doing my best here. Sorry if I didn't get the hand signal right. Please excuse me. We get back on land. They were stripping off our wetsuits. And I said to the guys, okay, guys, what is this underwater etiquette that I clearly need to learn? And like, what are you talking about? I said, well, the guys, there's two guys down there. I said, they seem very kind of, experienced. And they said, what guys? I went, the two guys in the black suits. They're like, Dani, what guys? And I'm like, holy God, those men were dead. And when I thought back in my mind, I realized they weren't wearing regulators or masks. They didn't have tanks on their back. From here, neck up, there was nothing on them at all. But something in their spirits knew that I would see them. Now, can you imagine? I didn't even think. I'm not swimming. I know it's amazing, but oh God, it taught me something so beautiful. Just like the angels of death, Elena, it taught me that there are so many spirits of people who've crossed, and some don't always know they've gone. Some do, they just want to play with you. And some spirits stay earthbound. But I realized that I can do something about this. So when we're on land, I start bawling, crying. I'm wondering how many other people are at sea who've perished and haven't realized. What I learned was, where we were diving, where we were taking our PADI exam, they dropped the Navy SEALs in the water right there. And some of those beautiful men and women have dropped down so deep, they've run out of air on the way back. Some have got the bends. Some of them didn't have enough weight, and they have perished in that spot. And of course, I had no idea whatsoever. And I'm not going there thinking, oh, let me look for spirits underwater. You know what I mean? So it's like any one of us has an ability to sense or to see. And I want everyone to own that, and recognize that you never know where you're going to see them. But if you can, without being a victim or a martyr, bring some love, bring some kindness, don't get sucked into a story, because sometimes there are malevolent spirits that want you to do something with them or help them in a way, and they're not good. You've got to use your discernment. So I stood and I prayed for angels to come and clear, and I prayed for Jesus to come, and Archangel Michael and the Buddha, and anything I could imagine, anything in the ocean that was, a semblance of love, an iconic myth, even, if you will, and did all of that. And then my friend Bill beside me starts weeping. He's feeling emotional too. The other guys, one was a Navy SEAL, had lost people there, or in those areas, because huge shelf around there in that part of California. It was a really beautiful moment, and something again that I really wanted to share, because you just never know where you're going to have an interaction like that.
Yes, yes. Oh, I have many a story like this. You know, I have like you this ability to see the ghost and people on the other side, but also the creatures of the fourth density of the other worlds. And so yeah, my life is filled with stories like this. Um, I wanted to share with you two things regarding to the angel of death, the angels of death. In well, what you depicted happened in England Didn't it?
One in England, one in America. So
Okay.
the one the train was in England, and the one in America was Coronado, California. Sea Avenue.
I live in Ireland, and here we have the banshee. So the banshee is misinterpreted. What the banshee is, the banshee in Gaelic, the woman from the she. The she is the people of the other world. They appear, oh, they are women with long dark hair, and they are weeping and appearing just before, hours before somebody's gonna die, and they scream. The scream is quite terrifying. They called screaming banshees. They've all, and someone drops dead in the hour or 2 hours. So the thing is, these banshees have been devilized like demonic entities that bring death, but in fact, no, they warn, they desperate, they know somebody, they are passers, and they know somebody's going to pass. So they are here to help the passing, but to warn everyone in tears that somebody's going to die. Just, either do something to save this person, or either be there for him or her. And so they when I arrived in Ireland from France, I was terrified to hear about the stories of banshees until I met one. I used to work in a haunted building, and in this building there was an attic that was walled, uh, and that the owners of this building had discovered the door and discovered this attic where many people died in this attic from pneumonia. But there was a room where was a ghost. I could see her, uh, a banshee, combing her hair, long black hair in front of a mirror, and there was a baby there. She had a baby that had it was yeah, she died there, so she became a spirit. um and she saw me twice with these very scary dark eyes, but you know uh I felt no fear, or I'm used with to connect with these any kind of entity. So I know when there is no danger. I know it, and there wasn't any danger. And then I was working in an office just below the attic. And a few times she used to come at exactly a certain time. She used to come down the stairs. I could hear her steps. And could walk the corridor, enter in my office. And I would see her as transparent person, but with all the colors and everything. She would be dressed like maybe 200 years ago. And she would look at me and just spend time with me. And she gave me her name, and we couldn't communicate really because she spoke an ancient language. But yeah, one day she brought her baby and she showed me her dead baby, like, like, see, it's my baby. And she was very proud. And I was like, yeah, great. Oh, thank you for showing me your baby. Yeah, thank you. I was like, oh my God. And she was nice. And she was a banshee. I knew she told me by it's kind of telepathy, you communicate without words.
Yeah,
And that's how, connecting with her, I understood what banshees were. They are not demonic beings. They are just ghosts or belonging to the fourth density beings. They just know about death. They just can predict when somebody is going to pass, and they try to warn people. They are just beings.
yeah,
So that's one thing. And I saw another one when I was younger, in my 20, in my no, sorry, in my early 30s. I married an abusive person, and it was quite horrible. And he was trying to kill me, but he tried to get me to kill myself once, just telling me I was worth nothing, etc. I know Thorhan would have intervened because he intervened many times during this period to stop things to happen. But that night, that special night, I was thinking about killing myself because my ex-husband was really pushing me to just end my days because I worth nothing on this earth. I was convinced he had convinced me that I was worth nothing, that I was just a parasite on this planet. So I said, well, what? Suffering, or I'm going to end it. I was thinking about this going to bed. And I say, well, okay, I think about it. I think about it tomorrow to kill myself. I find a way. I'm decided. It's, you know. Um, anyway, I, I couldn't fall asleep, of course, when you have this kind of thoughts. And my ex-husband was sleeping beside me, and in the room appeared a grey cloud and a sense of presence. And here was one. She was there, terrifying. Another one, different one. Long, dark, thick hair, dressed in veils, like a bit silk, yes. Floating, half floating. It was all in slow motion. The veils were floating in slow motion. And she had a crow on her shoulder. A crow, a bird, or raven, or crow, yes, or raven. Um, and she had dark eyes, and she came to, I was terrified. What's that thing? She came to me, and she was kind of, I didn't feel, when she approached, I sensed her energy field, and I wasn't afraid anymore. I was intrigued. It's like she had compassion for me. That was weird because she was so scary. And she said to me with a voice that scared of everyone. She said something like, it was in French, and she said, "Do you really want to have your flesh rotting and eaten by worms?" She said that. And she said it like a and that shook me so deeply because I was maybe 33 years old, and I, I went, no, I don't want that. I don't. Actually, I don't. Actually, I don't want to rot and be eaten by worms now in my at 34 years old, you know? No, thank
Wow.
you. And she disappeared.
Whoa.
And I never thought about killing myself ever again.
My God, that was the wake up call you needed, wasn't that? That was
Yeah.
the electromagnetic injection that you needed and the visual to say, hey, snap out of it. You know, you've been gaslit to the end of the road. You really want to jump off? That's amazing. I need to ask you something. I'm in the jungle, as you know, and we're creating a lot of buzz, and all of these crazy loud crickets they're coming up to the window and they're really loud. So I need to close my windows. Can we pause for just a second?
Yes.